love coming to Ken's classes and presenting my shtick, as they call it, what I know. I love sharing what I know. I've been an explorer of consciousness and the self and self-development and psychology and physiology and physics and astrophysics and everything for about 40 years, actually more than that since I was a teenager. And my quest in my life was to understand what is the nature of human nature? What is the nature of human motivation? And what is the nature of life? Aren't those good questions? Yeah, they're pretty good questions. And when you have a question like that, it drives you to learn and to grow and to find out everything, because everything's related, right? Everything's connected. So you're here focusing on stress and stress reduction, but then you're going to go to your next class and then the next class. And what do all those classes have in common? Stress. What else do they have in common?
Knowledge.
Knowledge, good. What else?
People.
What's that?
People.
People, good. What was that?
Homework.
Homework, good. They also have something very important in common, that's you. Did you notice that whatever classes you have, you're there? No matter where you go, there you are. You know, you've heard that before. So the most interesting thing to study is yourself. And no matter what class you're taking, no matter what you're doing, even if it's mathematics or physics or biology or computer programming, it has to do with you. And I was very fortunate. I had a teacher who taught me this when I was about your age. And he said, everything is relevant to you. If you figure out what it is about you, it'll be interesting. Because otherwise it's just that subject out there that I have to study or that's on a requirement list, or mom told me to, or the school counselor told me to. But if you take a look and say, what is this about me? Mathematics. What are the mathematics of my body? What are the mathematics of the people I'm around? You just did a diagram of your connections. That's a mathematical principle. Or biology. Well, your whole body is biological. It's physiological. Your consciousness, your mind is amazing. And if you're studying philosophy, that's about you and all of your ancestors, all the way back. So every subject can be applied to you as an individual. And if you make it apply to you, it will be much more interesting. Would you agree? Yeah. Otherwise, it's just that thing I have to go to class, didn't do, and yuck. So this has been my quest, and it's been what I've been doing for 40 plus years. And I've come across amazing things. I've come across incredible understanding of how people work and why they do what they do. That was really my interest. When I was a kid, I was kind of lonely and didn't really know how to relate to people. And I was trying to figure them out. I thought if I could figure out why people did what they did, maybe I could feel normal. I never did, by the way. Feel normal. Which is a good thing, by the way. If you're one of those people that doesn't feel normal, that's really cool. Enjoy that, because it's exciting. Celebrate your strangeness. So one of the things that I've studied is, what does it take to have a great life, and to have love, and to have enjoyment of your life, to have great relationships. And so whenever I study something, I study all the way back to the first principles. Like what happens with animals? What happens with babies? Because if you study all the way back there, you can learn a lot. So when I wanted to study love, I thought, well, what is love to a baby? A brand new baby comes out of the womb, and how does it know it's loved? Any ideas? Just shout them out. And I'm a little hard of hearing, so you got to shout loud.
Care.
Care. Thank you. What else?
Touch.
Thank you. You were a baby once. Come on, you ought to know. We got care and touch. How else does a baby know it's loved?
Being fed.
Being fed. Thank you. What else? Voice. Great. Warmth. Good. These are all correct. So a baby is coming out of an environment in which it's part of the mother. Now what's interesting is that if the mother is afraid, for whatever reason, drunk husband, war, poverty, violence in any form, her fear hormones are going right through the placenta into the baby, into the developing fetus. And that fetus is chemically bathed in fear hormones. And so we begin to form our understanding of the world while still in the womb. And so babies can come out of the womb already prepared for the world, that the world is dangerous. Because that's the conclusion you would come to if you were afraid all the time. So whatever condition your mother was in when you were in the womb will predetermine some of your earliest beliefs about who you are, about the world, and about life. And then you come out and you're depending on how you're seen and treated, you start developing a sense of self. Now that self sense takes about 6 months to a year. But during that first 6 months or a year, what happens is crucial to who you become. So every baby wants all the things you mentioned, and a baby knows it's loved and safe when it feels safe. Do you all know about the limbic system? I see a lot. Anybody not know about the limbic system that's willing to admit it? Okay, great. I'm going to do this real quick because most of you know it. So there's an old theory called the triune brain, and this is the spinal cord that goes down, and this is the reptilian system that all reptiles have, and around the reptilian system is the limbic system. Limbic is the emotional brain, and so all animals above reptiles have limbic systems, and then above that is your big cortex, which is your thinking brain, okay? So, a really important part of this limbic system are two little knobs called the amygdala, spelled this way, Amygdala, like that. And the amygdala are the threat detectors. And through evolution, all animals know what's threatening, right? You see a deer browsing in the woods, you know, it's chewing, and it suddenly goes like that. That's its threat detector going, I heard branch snap, it could be a predator. And we as animals also have these threat detectors. And we know when something's dangerous. And we do, you know, we usually go into fight or flight, freeze or fold. Those are the 4 F's. I'm fucking out of here. Oh, that's good. So, when the amygdala goes into threat detector, sort of at 3 levels. Green is like, I'm cool, everything's okay, I'm safe. Yet what we call yellow is, there could be danger. And red is, get the fuck out, because there's, you know, I'm about to be eaten or killed or something worse. Okay. So the thing is that when the limbic system takes over, when the amygdala triggers off, it takes over the whole brain. And you might notice this yourself. When you get triggered, when you go into emotional reaction, can you think logically? No. Now guys think they can, usually. But it's true for guys too. Women are very clear. It's like, no, I can't think. But men, so I'm always thinking. But you've seen them in reaction, and they're just as triggered as you are. And it's especially tough when something happens, like he makes a sneer, like that, right? And if you had sneers in your lifetime, in your childhood, you're going to go like this, and then he's going to freak out because you went, and he's going to go, whoa, and now we've got a co-trigger. You're going to trigger each other. How many people have experienced co-triggers with your mate, partner, family member? Oh, come on, those of you who are not raising your hand are not telling the truth. Thank you. Everybody's experienced this. Everybody knows this from their lifetime, right? So this is a problem in relationships because we get triggered and that amygdala fires off when anything threatens us. And everybody's got different threats built into their system from their childhood. So if your parents abandoned you, anybody walking away from you is a threat. If your parents neglected you, anybody who's not paying attention to you is a threat. If you had abuse or being hit, anybody who raises their hand could be a threat. You see what I'm talking about, right? So anything in your background, a facial tic could be threatening, a word, a tone of voice. Because when the baby's developing, it's experiencing all these different things and trying to put together, like, how does this world work? How do I survive? Because babies need their parents to survive. They can't survive on their own. And so anything that looks like a threat to their well-being is equal to death. So baby's alive or dead, safe or threatened, and it's kind of a black-white situation for babies. So they're taking in experiences throughout the first couple of years of life and putting them together into a picture of the world. Babies are like little scientists. They're trying to figure out, how do I get my needs met? And they're also trying to figure out, well, how does the world work? You've seen babies in high chairs, and they'll throw something off the tray, and then mother goes, oh, that's so cute, put it back. The baby throws it off the tray again, and mother picks it up. And it's like, and the baby's going, wow, every time I do this, she does this. That's so cool. They're figuring it out. Like, how do I interact? So let's talk about the ideal versus the real for a minute. Because to a baby, if a baby is feeling safe and secure, then it knows it's safe. And if it's not feeling safe or secure, it's in threat and danger. So when you feel, let me start. So what does love feel like? Give me some adjectives. And then we'll do not love. So what does love feel like? Louder, please. Magical, thank you. Yell out some others. Electric? Oh, you guys have some hot love stuff. Most people say comfortable. Woo! All right, magical love. What else? When you feel loved, how do you feel?
Warm.
Warm. I love that one. Okay, good. Another one?
Understood.
Understood, thank you. Another?
Safe.
Safe, thank you.
Happy.
Couple more.
Connected.
Connected, great. I heard one in the back, I couldn't hear it. What is it?
Useful. Useful.
Can someone repeat it?
Peaceful.
Peaceful, thank you, excellent, okay. Great, so these are the feelings of what love is, and it's the same for a baby as it is for you. We need to feel this feeling of warm, understood, safe, connected, and peaceful. Later, you get electrical and magical. When your hormones start raging, that's when these come in, right? But for a baby, they're in this realm, okay? And when you know that you're not loved, what are some of the adjectives for that?
Attacked.
Attacked, thank you. Ignored. Attacked, ignored, good.
Insecure.
Insecure,
Isolated.
great. Crazy, yep. What else? A few more? Destructive, yep. And so we take these attacked and destructive, we call it endangered or dangerous. One or two more. Not love, when you know it's not love.
Unhappy.
Unhappy, thank you.
Lied to.
Unhappy and betrayed, okay, so lied or betrayed, yeah.
Lonely.
Lonely, yeah, we got isolated.
Confused.
And lonely. What was that?
Confused.
Confused, great. Okay, good. So
Got that. I'm gonna see that one in there.
this is what love is, and this is what love isn't. That's pretty simple, right? But have you ever learned this before? Like, this ought to be taught in elementary school. Don't you think? Like, wouldn't it have been helpful to know this? Now, the problem is that when you're being raised by your parents, love, so babies learn what love is from their parents and from how they're treated. And so if they get this, that's what they learn what love is. If they get this, this is what they learn love is. So whatever's going on in the family, that's what they learn love is. And so if you learn that love is dangerous, destructive, unhappy, and it has confusion in it, guess what you're going to do in your relationships? You're going to find people who feel familiar. Because that's what love is. And of course, familiar means family. Right? This is why we marry our mothers and fathers, and we get into relationships that repeat themselves over and over again that are unhappy, miserable, dangerous, insecure. So, wouldn't it be cool to be aware of this and watch out for this pattern, because everyone does it. It's very few people escape this pattern of marrying people or getting together with people who remind them of their mother and father, because that's what's familiar and that's what love is. So, love can be alloyed with any of these other things, and so you go and find people who remind you of that love, and you feel loved. Oh, it's threatening? Well, that's just like home. It's dangerous? It's just like the kind of love I had with my dad. It's abandoning? Yeah, that's what happened when I was a kid. So that's why we repeat these patterns, because we're learning what love is in our childhood. So, let's imagine the ideal scenario. A baby comes out of the womb, and the mother and the father's around, and other family members, and the mother picks up the baby and says, "I'm so glad you're here. Welcome. You are a unique being. We're so happy to meet you. We're so happy you're here. And I know things are a little rough right now. You can't talk, and you can't walk, and you can't feed yourself, but I'm going to care for you. And I'm going to make you feel secure every moment that I can. And I won't be able to do a perfect job, but I'm going to do the best I can to make you feel loved and warm and secure and happy. And I'm going to take care of your needs, and I'm going to help you learn how to take care of your own needs. And eventually you'll be able to walk and talk and feed yourself. But for right now, all you have to do is relax and be yourself, because who you are now is just perfect."
Wow.
How many got that? A few. Yeah. Most people don't. Why? Because our parents didn't do it to them. They got whatever they got. And their parents didn't do it to them, and they got whatever they got, and all the way back. Back when people lived in tribal cultures, and even today's tribal cultures, have this sense of children and how to raise them. And everything else looks totally insane when you look at it objectively. So if you could hold your partner or your friends that way, that's what true love is. And that's what would get you close and connected and loved. You would feel loved, they would feel loved. And that's called secure attachment. Because that person sees you for who you are. They don't have other expectations of you. They love you for who you are. They're there for you, to support you. They want to keep you safe. They don't want to put you in danger. And that's called security, secure attachment. Now, there's been 20 years and 2,000 studies of attachment patterns or bonding patterns. So everybody's seen the psychology tapes of ducks who come out of the eggs and they attach to who's ever the big thing nearby, right? So you see these adults with ducks walking behind them because the ducks have bonded to that person. It was the first being they saw, and it's programmed into a duck brain or any bird brain that the big thing near them is their mommy, and they will be safe if they stay near them. So human babies bond too. We're supposed to bond. We're supposed to bond with our mother. And the mother is supposed to be there to make us feel that way that I just described. So you have secure attachment, and that is that feeling that I'm going to be cared for, and I know I'm secure. And you know, it's not 100% of the time. Nobody's a perfect parent. Nobody's a perfect girlfriend or boyfriend. But the standard is 80% of the time or better. If your partner treats you that way 4 out of 5 interactions, if you feel loved and secure and safe 4 out of 5 times, 4 out of 5 interactions, you're doing well. You feel safe. And even a baby they wake up and they're alone and they go, ah, and they cry and scream. If there's a pattern of mom being there for them fairly quickly, they become resilient. It's like, okay, well, I can handle a few minutes of being alone. I know she's coming. I'm just not very happy right now, but I know she's coming, and I feel generally safe. And so that's what secure attachment is. And if you remember that 80% of the time or better, that's a good standard. That way you're not expecting the person that you're with to be with you 100% of the time, on demand. You know, I need you, I'm right here. I need you, I'd love to be there. I can't be there right now. I'll be there as soon as I can. Okay, I can wait. Okay, so that's secure attachment. Now, if you didn't get that, and most of us didn't, you have one of the forms of insecure attachment. And here's how they did the experiments. And again, 2,000 studies over 20 years. So they take a mother-child pair, and they bring them into a room with a one-way glass, and the mom puts the baby down, and there's a bunch of toys and stuff to play with. And then the mother leaves the room, and they watch to see what does the child do. And then a stranger walks into the room, and they watch the child. What does the child do? And then the stranger leaves, and then the mother walks back in, and they again watch what the child does. Now, some of the time, when the mother walks out, the baby freaks out. And is inconsolable, right? And they escalate. They go from to throwing a tantrum. And that's a child who is basically anxious. It's like they don't know whether mom's coming back or not. There's danger, and they're going to escalate until they get their needs met. Now, some babies, mother walks out and they go, yeah. And they don't really have a bond with the mother. The mother's just sort of functional, and they know they're not going to get their needs met, so they become avoidant. So these are the styles. Anybody know an avoidant type? Okay, so these are the types: insecure, anxious, and insecure avoidant. There's one more which I'll talk about a little bit. These are the main types. So you have secure, insecure, anxious, and insecure avoidant. So when a baby's in the crib and it's not getting its needs met, if it gets its needs met sometimes, but not other times, and there's no regularity, and there's no security, the baby is trying to figure out, how am I going to get my needs met? How am I going to, get cared for? Because that's all the baby wants. They want to feel that security that feels like love. And so when there's random feedback, it makes the brain a little crazy. It's trying to figure out, what do I need to do? So anxious types tend to escalate and scream louder and louder and louder until somebody comes. Avoidant types have so little response to their cries that they go, fuck it. I'm never going to get my needs met. I'm just going to go, into my head, or I'm going to put attention elsewhere, like on my iPhone, or the baby just forgets about being taken care of, and they become avoidant in relationship. Now, the bonding pattern that you have as a child keeps going into your adult relationships. How many of you would say that you are an anxious type and you escalate when you're not getting your needs cared for? Be honest. Okay, good. Thank you. Maybe 30%. How many of you feel like you're the avoidant type? When things get rough, you're out of here? It's about the same, and that's sort of pretty average. There's one more type, which I'll mention now. It's a little more complicated, and that's called insecure traumatic. Traumatic means that there was a scary parent. The person who was supposed to care for you was actually scary. They were alcoholic, drug abuser, rageaholic, crazy, mentally ill. And so the way you can tell a person who's traumatically attached is they tend to overreact to things and go kind of way over what would normally be responded, the level of normal response. And that means there's deep trauma in them and they're getting triggered, that trauma's getting triggered, and their brain is like on fire. And you can see this in war veterans who come back from war. It's called PTSD in those cases, post-traumatic stress syndrome. And it's actually a traumatized brain. A traumatized brain is disorganized, and this is also sometimes called disorganized. And a person who is traumatized, disorganized, usually is also avoidant or anxious. So they tend to work one way or the other. There's also another tricky one, which is an anxious type who when they don't get their needs met enough, they become protest avoidant, which means they're protesting by saying, fuck you, I'm out of here. I'm not going to get my needs met, I'm leaving. So, I'm not going to ask who feels like they have trauma, because that's a pretty deep issue, but it's important if you or your partner overreacts, you should see a trauma specialist, because that means there's deep trauma inside the psyche that needs to be worked through. Now the good news is that brain is not fixed. It's plastic. It's a plastic medium. It changes. It changes with your learning, and it also can change with therapy or with practices. So even if you were really severely anxious or severely avoidant, you can learn to become secure with a secure partner. Or if neither of you are secure, you can become secure together. You can practice secure relationship tools and skills and turn yourself into a securely attached person. Now, one of the problems, I grew up in the 60s and 70s and 80s and 90s. I'm old. And it was after the sexual revolution and before AIDS, so it was like, wee! And today we call it harassment, then it was just having fun. We were like having sex with anybody, anytime, all the time. And it was great, for people like me. But thank you for putting me in the earth that way. However, it also left a lot of people anxious and hurt, because when you get together with someone sexually, you're opening your heart, and then they go away, and there's this hole in your heart that needs to be filled. Anybody got that experience? Like when you feel left, that's part of the betrayal that feels so bad. So it's really important, and we've learned this just in the last 20 years really, that secure relationships where you're committed to each other and to stay together for the long haul, and you keep what's called the couple bubble intact. If there's no threats to the couple bubble, that's really crucial to reprogram the brain towards secure attachment. Okay, any questions about that so far? Yes, please.
What about like polyamorous?
Polyamory.
Yeah.
Yeah, one of my favorite topics.
Do they need a couple bubble or?
Yeah, okay, so polyamory, for those of you who don't know, is agreed upon non-monogamous relationship. And my wife and I have counseled lots of people in the polyamorous community, and it creates incredible insecurity. Because you never know whether your partner's gonna suddenly fall in love with that other person and go off with them. So as much as it's much better than secret polyamory, like affairs, much better, because at least you're being open and honest about it. So it reduces the surprise factor, but it still makes people anxious. Yeah. And I know people who've had 20-year-long polyamorous relationships, and it's unusual, but it's possible, and then they leave for somebody else. So yeah, it's a tough one. Any other questions about this attachment theory? Wow. Wow, I must be doing a really good job.
Yeah. I heard that.
Okay.
Oh, here's a question.
Yes, great.
What would a baby look like that has the right connection with him? Because you
Ah.
talked about the, yeah.
Good. So a securely attached baby is basically comfortable in their skin. It's like they're okay. You know, they live in okayness rather than something's wrong. The most common belief that I've dealt with, and I specialize in beliefs and working with beliefs, as Kim might have told you, the most common belief I know of is there's something wrong with me. How many people have some part of that belief in them? There's something wrong with me. Yeah, just take a look around. I mean, it's the most common belief there is, and if people aren't raising their hand, they're just not really telling the truth. That's okay. That's okay. This is so. I'm coming back to your question, but it's part of the answer. So when something is wrong in the baby's environment, the baby has to figure out what's going on. What is the reason that they're not getting their needs met? And their little scientist brain is trying to figure it out. It's like, what is it that's causing this? Because I have to figure out how to uncause it. I have to figure out what's going on here. Now, the baby-parent relationship is called a survival relationship. You need them to survive. And if you question that relationship, or if you do something that hurts that relationship, you could be thrown out to the wolves or flushed down the toilet. And the instinctual brain knows this. The animal brain knows this. We've got to stay close to mommy and daddy and be like them, because if we're like them, they're less likely to throw us away. So we have a natural penchant for taking on their beliefs, taking on their patterns, learning from them. It's like, yes, program me. Tell me exactly how to be like you, because that will keep me safe. Same is safe, different is dangerous. And if you were a different kid growing up, you know how dangerous that is. It's like you didn't know where you belonged and it was uncomfortable. So the baby's trying to figure it out, and they cannot challenge the parent relationship, so they turn it on themselves. If things aren't right out here, there must be something wrong with me. This is why it's the most common belief there is. Because if there's a deficit in the environment, if the mother's crazy with 3 other kids and dad's alcoholic and comes home and turns the tables over, the baby can't say, wow, mom and dad are really screwed up. They should have gotten some relationship education when they were kids, and they need some counseling and some serious psychiatric help, and dad needs to dry out. Babies don't think that way. So they think this is the environment that they created. It must be something about them. Now, remind me of your question. It was there.
What does the right kind of attachment to the mother look like?
Great.
The mother
So what it looks like is everything's okay. I'm okay, they're okay. I don't get my needs met all the time, but most of the time I do. And so the baby can relax. So a baby who's really cared for can relax. And you find babies like that don't cry much because the mother's so attuned to the baby that she's there like before the baby needs something. And they grow up feeling comfortable in their skins. They're not like trying to figure it out all the time. Good. So we accumulate these beliefs, and then of course we come out of the womb. And what's your name?
Sophia.
Sophia. So Sophia comes out of the room. If you hope you don't mind me using her as an example. And her parents go, oh, look at little Sophia. She is so cute. She's so beautiful. She's going to grow up to be a what? Parent.
Writer.
A writer. Yeah. And little Sophia's there going, my name is Sophia, I'm so cute and beautiful, and I'm going to grow up and be a writer. Because we're basically on record mode for the first 5 years of life. We're just taking it all in and taking in whatever indoctrination our parents give us. They tell us who we are, and they tell us how to be and what to do and what not to do, and that's good and that's bad and that's poo-poo, don't touch that, and you eat this and that's good for you. And so you're just taking it all in, just on record mode, record, taking it all in, and all of these instructions come in as beliefs. This is the way life is supposed to be. And then you have, if you have siblings, the siblings whisper to you, this is what sex is and it's dirty, you know, and you go, oh, okay, I'm taking in those ideas. And then you go to school and your teachers say, this is what happened in the 15th century, and this is the nice people from Europe who came and were so nice to the Indians, and then they killed them. And so then we take those in. Then we go to church or synagogue or the mosque, and then we get more indoctrination. And indoctrination, doctrine means a belief, right? And in means a belief is being pushed into you. And so you start building these layers and layers and layers of beliefs. And then what happens is beliefs actually become like lenses that we look at the world through. So if you believe that homeless people are dangerous because your mother believes that, don't talk to them, don't look at them, don't, you know, then you're looking through this lens, and every time you see a homeless person, you see danger, right? Now, as you get old enough to think for yourself, you start thinking, well, maybe that's not true. Oh, you know, I just met a homeless person, they're not so dangerous. Maybe that belief is wrong. But instead of clearing the belief from our subconscious mind, it just gets pushed down. So you're walking down the street and a homeless person stands up and you go, ugh, because that old belief is still there in the background. And you have tens of thousands of beliefs programmed into you by the time you're this age. Now, some of them are good, right? So you wouldn't want to clear out the belief, look both ways before crossing the street. That would be a bad belief to clear because that helps make you safe. But if you have a belief about men or a belief about women or a belief about, you know, LGBT people or a belief about certain religions, and it's blocking you, it's blocking your possibilities because you're looking through that lens, you might want to examine that belief and then clear it out by recognizing I was programmed, I don't want to be programmed that way, and I teach methods for clearing beliefs out of the subconscious mind. Because you can decide consciously that it's wrong and that you don't want to believe it anymore, but it's still living in your subconscious mind. So, yeah, and then we grow up and we become teenagers, and then we get lots of indoctrination from the media. This is what's glamorous, this is what's beautiful, this is what's popular. It's good to be popular, it's good to be cool, very bad to be uncool. And so we start gathering coolness factors, you know, it's like, well, if I play guitar, I'll be cool, and people will like me, or if I'm smart, people will like me. And we get these strategies. And this is another thing that happens in childhood, is that when we are insecurely attached, actually anything, when things aren't great, we figure out a strategy for getting what we need. So in the family, you are looking for, as a child, you're looking for what will successfully get you what you need, get you attention and love and care. Well, if I'm smart, then Dad pays attention to me. If I take care of Mom, then she loves me more. If I take care of my little sister, I'm liked better. If I'm really good at sports, Dad's there cheering me on. And so the strategies that we develop are based on our parents' love, like, appreciation, etc. And so we tend to get channeled into those areas that are what our parents approved of. And of course, one of the strategies for dealing with that is rebellion. Fuck you. I'm going this way. And that's perfectly good strategy, right? Another, so one is compliance, like, okay, I'll do whatever you say. Another is rebellion, fuck you. Another one's withdrawal. I'm just going to go into my shell and become isolated, and, you know, I don't have to pay attention to it. Another is manipulation. I'll show you from back here. And these are all strategies we use in relationships because we learned them in our family. So how many are primarily rebellers? Oh, a lot of rebellers in here. That's good. I like rebelling. Okay, how many are primarily compliers? You want to be a good boy, good girl. Okay, follow the rules, because those people drive 55 miles an hour in a 75 zone. How many are manipulators? Oh yeah, I became a very good manipulator. I could negotiate for a cookie like nobody's business. How many are withdrawers? Generally, like when things get tough, I isolate. Okay, good, good. So it's good to know your patterns. They're just patterns. This is the cool thing to know, is that you are not your patterns. You are not your patterns. You have patterns, but you are not your patterns. And patterns can be changed. That's the really good news. That's why you're here. That's why you're learning. That's why Ken is your teacher, because he's showing you that you can change the patterns in your life that aren't working so well. So for example, if you are a withdrawer, you can practice engaging in relationship. If you are an anxious type and get all excited and escalate problems or escalate issues, you can learn to cool your jets a little bit. If you're in a relationship, so it's very common to have an anxious type and an avoidant type in a relationship. They somehow are attracted to each other. There's a good reason for it. But so one person will go, "Rah!" and the other person goes, "I'm out of here." And then the person who went, "Rah!" feels abandoned, and they go, "Ah!" I'm really out of here. And so they tend to react to each other, and so there's these circular triggers that go on. Yeah, I think that's all I want to say about that. All right, anything else you want me to talk about? Yes?
Can you describe what you mean by couple bubble?
Yes, good. A couple bubble is a agreement between two people who say, we're going to do this with each other. We're going to keep each other safe. We're going to care about each other's limbic system. We want to keep each other in green as much as possible. And so I'm going to pay attention to your needs, and I'm going to care about you as much as I can, 80% of the time or better. You're going to care about me and my needs 80% of the time or better. And we're going to watch out for any third-party threats. A third-party threat could be homework, a job, another person. It could be a relationship with a parent. Anything that threatens the coupledom that would tend to pull them apart. That's what a couple bubble is. It's just a commitment to keeping each other safe. And by the way, if your partner reacts to anything that you do, turn toward them and give them warmth, understanding, safety, connectedness, and peace, and it will cool them down quickly. Because we're talking about a brain system, the limbic system, that reacts like that. It's a microsecond that it takes to get triggered and off and running. So our tendency is to go back like this, and the key is to do the opposite of what your instinct is to do this. Now, if your tendency is to do this, and you're with an avoidant type, you do this, and he goes, good. And because he needs space. Usually he's. Avoidant types generally he's. Anxious types generally females, but we're all both, so it's not a big rule. It's just a generality. And so an anxious type needs to give the avoidant space and say, I know you need some space. Let me know when you're going to be back. And so if an avoidant type can say, okay, look, I need some space, but I'll be back in a half an hour. Then the anxious type can go, okay, whew, now I know I'm not going to get abandoned, so I'll see you in a half an hour. So that's a way to get past the pattern. So the anxious types need to learn how to give a little bit more space, and the avoidant types need to learn how to embrace more and give the person love and attention. Did I answer your question about couple bubbles? Okay, any other questions? Yes?
You said there's a reason for anxious and avoidant to be drawn to each other. What is that?
Great question. So it took me a while to figure this out. It's like, why is that such a magnetic attraction? Well, I'm a recovering avoidant. Okay, so I looked at it. My mother was anxious. Why am I avoidant? Because my mother was always going, oh, yeah, I'm out of here. I right? So that kind of anxiety is familiar. Remember I said family, right? And no matter what the brain wants to do, the subconscious mind is like saying, she's perfect. It's like, we have these wounds inside of us, and we see, they're like searchlights. It's like, I want to find the matching wound, you know? and then across the room, you see somebody who's got their searchlight going, it's like, and we rush toward each other and we impale each other on each other's wounds. It's like, oh, yes, you're mine. So, and similarly with anxious types, if a parent was avoidant, then they're not sure they're going to get loved. It's like, do you love me? Do you love me? Are you going to abandon me? And so what's familiar is the avoidant type. Now, it's important to say that we have two parents, and some people have 3 or 4, and some people have lots of grandparents and caregivers. We have a certain kind of relationship with each one, and sometimes we're partly anxious and partly avoidant, and so we call those hybrids. And a lot of us are hybrids. So because we had 2 different relationships, and so we have characteristics of both. And certain people will bring out your anxious response, and certain people will bring out your avoidant response. So it depends on whether they're reminding you of mom or dad. Yes?
Can this hybridization also come from secure and insecure attachments? Like you're very secure with one parent?
Yes, good question. Can a hybrid be both secure and insecure? And the answer is yes. If you had a great relationship with mom, but dad was really avoidant and he just never talked to you, at least you know how to have a secure relationship with somebody. And then maybe, it's like, so you're going to look for qualities of that, but you also might find somebody who's both, because they have both characteristics. Yeah, attraction's kind of magical because our subconscious mind is like out there looking for just the right person. We can repeat the patterns and hopefully learn from them. That's actually one of the purposes, is that if we all want to heal our relationships with our parents, and so we look for somebody who will repeat the pattern so we can heal it. And that's actually the sort of soul level decision why we repeat these patterns. And so you have an opportunity with each person that you connect with to heal the patterns if you're paying attention. And if you're not paying attention, you'll just repeat the patterns. And what normally happens is that we repeat a pattern, we get triggered, and then like next day we go, oh man, was I triggered? I just repeated that pattern, I can't believe it. I can't believe I ate the whole thing, the whole quart of ice cream. And the next time it happens, if you're on this path of awakening, the next time it happens is like right after it happens, you go, shh, damn it, I got triggered again. Same thing happened, damn. But it happened, you awake to it quicker. And if you repeat this enough times, pretty soon you're in the middle of it, and you go, fuck, I'm in the pattern. But you have to keep, so and the next time you see it coming sooner, you go, wait a minute, I'm in the pattern. What are my options? And that's a great moment.
Yeah.
When you can stop yourself from in the middle of a reaction and do something different. This is what I had to learn with my wife, is that, being that I'm an avoidant type, and I'm out of here, that's my signal to leave. I had to learn to turn toward her and do this instead. And it was a really hard thing to repattern. Very hard for an avoidant type to do that. But it did work. And I can quiet her down much quickly when I remember. Sometimes I don't. That's just human nature. Okay, anything else? Otherwise I'll wrap up. Yes?
Do you have any tips on how to care for someone, or like a friend or a spouse, whatever, who's insecure, traumatic, who's organized?
Okay, good question. How do you care for somebody who's insecure, traumatic? It's tricky, first of all, and basically what heals trauma is security. So, security up here, and lots of it. But the traumatized person also has to do some work themselves, recognize that they've got trauma, get it dealt with. So we usually refer people to trauma specialists, and there's a lot of them, around here in the Bay Area, because trauma really affects the brain. It just disorganizes it, and when trauma happens, it happens all over the brain. So it's not just the limbic system; it's in the cortex, and it's in the basal ganglia. I mean, it's all over the brain, and so it takes time. It actually takes years to reprogram these patterns, years of practice, and trauma can take many years to heal. So the best thing you can do is to say, I'm not your mother. I'm here. I'm not going away. I'm not, I'm here for you, and you're not in the war anymore. I'm here, and I've got you. So those are the two suggestions. Yeah. Last call. No last calls. All right. I am done.
Ryan, thank you.
You're welcome.
Yay!
I wish you all a glorious life with lots of secure relationships, lots of happiness, great electrical magic, and fullness and exploration, because you're all precious beings. Every one of you is important to this world, and I want you to be your best because the world needs you. Thank you.
Wow.